everyone, how is it going? We just have to say, da bears. Yes, da bears. Today's design is the bear. And usually when I do a bear, it is more of the teddy bear design. But today I decided it was going to be an actual bear. Maybe a grizzly bear or a brown bear. Yeah, I don't know exactly which type of bear it is, but that is today's design. And I was actually inspired to do today's design because one of my cousins has been posting his spring break photos. He and his family are taking a road trip. His first photo that I saw was of Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. The next day he had pictures of the Badlands, also in South Dakota. I'm assuming he's heading to Yellowstone, but I guess I didn't actually confirm that with him. But that was the road trip we took when we saw the Mount Rushmore and Yellowstone in the same trip. So it was the summer between the 7th and 8th grade for me. And I think this was our first real family road trip vacation. Prior to this trip, we'd gone just like a one-day trip somewhere, driving as far as you could get in a day. We had flown to Florida to see my grandparents and done other smaller vacations, but this was our first real road trip vacation. And I remember that we got to help plan it to some degree. My dad had sent off to the motor club. I think it was the Amico Motor Club, and they had their Pathfinder vacation planner. You tell them sort of where you want to begin, where you want to go, what stops you might want to take along the way, and they would send you a travel map showing a route to take and a book of tourist ideas of things you might like to see along the way. And I remember going through that book and reading about all the different things we might see on this vacation and picking out places that we thought it would be, hey, this would be a fun place to see and stop and do something. So it was, like, I think a 2-week road trip. We started in Chicago, Illinois, and the big destination of the week was Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. And if I recall correctly, based on the stops we took, we went west on I-90 and came back east on I-80. So yeah, we went across one way, down a bit, and came back home. Some of our stops along the way were in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Don't really remember too much exciting in Sioux Falls. Just, it wasn't like Niagara Falls or something. I don't recall it being really a big falls. It was just sort of a city with the name falls, but doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lot of water falling. And then we drove through Mitchell, South Dakota, and saw the Corn Palace. We went to Wool Drug Store in South Dakota. And the thing that I remember most about Wool Drugs was you saw signs for it every mile for 200 miles before it. So they were like, you start seeing a sign that says, stop at Wool Drugs, 200 miles. Stop at Wool Drugs, 198 miles. Stop at Wool Drugs, 196 miles. So you just see that every few miles on the ride there. Another ad sign for Wool Drug. And I guess it was, when it was built, it was like one of the few rest stops that were available to people that had air conditioning and cold water and whatever else was popular that people traveling on the road would need. Then we drove through the Badlands National Park. And growing up in the Chicago area, the Badlands were just totally unique, something that you never see in the Midwest. Just tons of rock formations and hills, not quite mountains, but just sand colored and reds and browns, and it was colorful. It was a unique place to see, someplace I'd like to go back to visit again. Have some more time to go on some hikes there. I don't think we spent more than a few hours. I know we went through Custer State Park where they had a lot of bison. We went up to see Mount Rushmore. Once we got to Wyoming, we saw Devil's Tower, which as a kid was somewhere that was famous because it was featured in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, I sort of remember that movie, and I always thought, well, you know, if a movie has a 3 in the title, it means a third one. So I'd like, what happened to the Close Encounters of the Second Kind and the First Kind movies? But no, I guess it wasn't sequels. And we spent 3 days in Yellowstone. I remember we drove to the entrance of Yellowstone, and some of the first hills there was actually snow on the side of the road. And this was July, maybe early August, and we're like never seen snow in the summer months, so we had to stop and play in the snow for a while. Remember we took a horseback ride trip. It was a dinner cookout. So my dad, brother, and I went on horse, and my mom didn't want to ride a horse, so she took the trail wagon instead. Somewhere in Yellowstone, I think somewhere else along the way, we ran into a family that we knew from school and scouting. They were doing the same vacation. I think they were like a day ahead of us on their itinerary, so they had already seen some stuff that we were still heading to. But it's incredible that, like, I remember going back to school, and every year someone would talk about being in Disney World or some other vacation and run into a neighbor or someone else from school. So we did it once, actually twice on that trip. We saw the same family twice. Then after we finished touring the Yellowstone area, we went south. I don't remember seeing too much of the Grand Tetons. I'm sure we drove through it, but I don't think we really stopped there. And then we spent a night with some of our friends of the family that used to live in the Chicago area that moved out to Denver. And then we took the rest of the trip going home. I sort of think the bulk of that vacation was going to Yellowstone and the ride out there. There really wasn't that much to see on the way home. I think we might have actually cut a day out of that trip from what had been planned. That, yeah, you have two kids in the car who are just young teenagers that are bickering back and forth, and 10 days of being away from home, they're a little antsy. So yeah, we drove our parents crazy, and we raced home early. But the only thing, I had to look in the old photo albums to see, did we stop anywhere along the way? I remembered 1 or 2 stops. Remembered some old westerny town we visit. And I believe it was Fort Kearney, which was an old fort town. I think it was also an important location along the Pony Express Trail, but I don't really remember. And I don't know if we made it there or it was on the original itinerary that we tossed out. We were supposed to head to Boys Town, which don't know exactly what we would have seen there, or if we actually stopped there. But the things I remember about that trip were looking through the trip guide planning, reading about all the stops we could see, the places we could go, and sort of following the map routes from state to state of where all the states connect. Whenever we were close enough to a state border, we detoured to cross the state. So while we were in Yellowstone, we made it up to Montana and Idaho. I'm not sure if, like, at the beginning we made it up into Minnesota. But yeah, we just try to check off as many states as possible. And later on in, like, 8th grade in high school, when we were learning the U.S. Geography and the names of all the states, I sort of look back on that trip. You know, I remember driving to Yellowstone. We started in Illinois, and then we went up into Wisconsin, and we stopped in South Dakota, and we stopped in Wyoming, and drove down to Colorado. So, to me, that road trip helped me learn the states by sort of just places I'd really been. So every time I hear, like, something that the average person hasn't gone more than 100 miles from home or only visited 3 states, I'm like, get in your car and go somewhere. But at the same time, since I've been living on my own, yes, I've driven places, but I've not taken a true road trip. I've driven from here to Chicago, from here to New York. I've driven from here to Tennessee and places like that. But all of it's been one day of driving, get to where you're going, stay there for several days, and drive back. I haven't taken that road trip where you stop in a different city, different place, different state, different attractions every day along the trip. So yeah, I'll have to do one of those true American road trips. I've done, like, cruises and things like that in other countries, but there's a lot of the U.S. I haven't seen, especially the Southwest. So yeah, so that's just one of my childhood vacations. We have our teddy bear. I guess he's dressed up for Easter. He's got his pastel colors going. So until next time, see you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. Thanks for watching.